How much floor space is required to hold a pallet? We calculate this now in a generic way. Of course, the floor space that is covered by a pallet includes the pallet itself. We call this the footprint of the pallet. And there's a small gap between adjacent pallets. Typically this is very small, though we can ignore this for this calculation. However, what you should always keep in mind, you also need some access, some floor space to access the pallet. Yeah? The forklift needs always some space for driving and being able to inserting and removing a pallet. So the actual floor space that is required by a pallet is bigger than just the footprint of the pallet. And for this lecture, we now want to measure the aisle space, the space that we use that is between two opposing racks, between two opposing lanes, as A, and A is measured in pallet positions. So for example, we say the aisle is A equals 4.6 pallet positions wide. So between two opposing lanes there is a space that is equal to 4.6 pallet positions. This is reserved for the aisle and for maneuvering with the forklift. So in order to calculate the actual floor space that is required to store a lane of pallets, multiple pallets that are stored back to back in one lane, we always need to consider the storage space, the footprint of these pallets, and the access space for this lane. We say the pure storage space is k pallet positions deep. So if we store 3 pallets back to back, then this lane is 3 pallet positions deep. And the access space in front of a lane is of course the aisle space, but because two lanes are always opposing, so we can say these two lanes share the aisle space, and we calculate this as 50% of the aisle space. So the total area that we require for one lane of pallets is equal to the number of pallets k and the aisle space divided by 2. I go back to the picture. You see there are always two opposing lanes. This 2 deep lane and this 2 deep lane, they share the aisle space of 3 pallet positions, right? So let's look at this example. We have a 2 deep lane, like in the lower picture, in the lower area, but here the aisle space is 3.5 pallet positions in this example. So the floor space that is required is 3.75 pallet positions. K equals 2 because we have a 2 deep lane, and the aisle space is 3.5. We take 50% of this, which is in total 3.75 pallet positions. So in this 2 deep lane warehouse, to store 2 pallets in this lane, we need a space of 3.75 pallet positions. This is the way we talk now.